Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Advancing with Watercolor. Gary Tucker here, and I'm welcoming you into my studio today. It's a unique opportunity, I think, to visit the artist studio and see some of the things that they keep at hand, some of their working methods. Each artist has a little different orientation, a little different setup. Mine is pretty simple, and mine is also sort of geared to an audience who's watching through the computer or through YouTube specifically. In other words, I've created some angles that I think are helpful to the watercolorist specifically. So as you can see, this is my workstation, my table, and it's at quite a pitch. This is probably about 70 degrees, and so this is a little different than the typical working style because it's at such an angle. That means that the water and the pigment are going to slide downhill a little faster. I think for the majority of people, I recommend a flatter plane, a little bit of an incline, but more like 35 degrees. It just seems easier to control that way. And my palette too is on an incline, which is also serves a couple of purposes. The main one being so that you can see clearly the colors that I'm mixing and also see how diluted they are. This is a really important physical quality to the media. If we can judge the strength of it by looking at it, we're able to get a more accurate portrayal of what we want. And everything else is pretty simple. I keep a water here, some brushes, some paints. I have two studio lights that I'll be turning on in a second so that you can see the paper a little more clearly. And our day today is going to move something like this. After this introduction, I'm going to move to a demonstration of 4 different techniques that we use in watercolor. And I'm hoping that you have a couple of pieces of paper handy so that one can be a scrap piece of paper, the other is where we'll do our finished piece. But this first work is a warm-up. At the same time, it's a way that I can show you without having to think about replicating an image, a way that I can show you 4 distinct ways of using watercolor. And in my opinion, every painting that I've seen, every watercolor that I've seen is utilizing one of or more of these ways of using watercolor. So this exercise is a way to find the distinguishing characteristics of the media and also a gateway to be able to think in your own images, what technique am I going to use here? How am I going to approach this passage? This will give your watercolor vocabulary more variation and will guide you through the watercolor planning process. I think and then once we move past the drill, the demonstration, the first one, we'll get right into a painting of the winter garden, which I think 12 by 16. This winter garden is, you saw the photo that I used. This is a location that's close by. We call it the Victory Gardens. It's in the Fenway. And I can walk there in about 10 minutes. It's a community garden that was started in World War II to grow vegetables and produce for the war effort, and it's still a working community garden today. In the wintertime, of course, you don't see many people out there, but it's got its own unique beauty, which I'm trying to capture today. That's one of the things that moves me to paint this scene, is how the garden is in a state of rest, and pine tree is still vibrant, but in general there's a softness to the scene that I like, and that's what I want to describe today. So this is our sketch. I'm going to go forward from this, and I've thought a lot about how to proceed, what I want to take care of first, second, and third. And in this case, I'm going to try and build the painting in the upper third first, and then in the upper 2/3 first. That means the background, some of the distant foliage, and our main pine tree, all in one go, and then start to build the foreground on top of that. So I need working on a little larger paper, I need a little larger brush. A lot of the things are going to remain the same in terms of what we practiced in our drill. Okay, so one of the first things I want to do is bring down a gray wash. Start with a light application, very, very light. There we go, get that running downhill. About to here. Then I want to take smaller brush and a little bit of a cooler gray. You see me pulling brown and blue into this. Through here. Maybe a suggestion of something back there. A little bit more brown on this side. Define some of these fence posts, white fence posts, which in truth you don't see. Let me just take care of this once I can with the wet, thirsty brush. When I make these vertical marks, that's going to promote this sort of traveling downward of the paint. Okay, keep it wet on top, and it doesn't have to be super wet, but you want to keep it workable. Through here, just a little bit of that. Of course, we're going to carry it downward in a second, but now we have a chance to build up that pine tree. I'm going to go quite thick. Mixing a combination of my neutral tint, or black, cadmium yellow. I'm getting a muted green. A little bit more blue, a hint of brown. Make a little progression here. And let's once more can make it a little wetter up here. Once more, test this. Let's see. Pretty bold. I think we can add a little water to that. And a little body color, a little white. I really want to get that calligraphic feel to these branches if I can. I'll take this brush here, just a little bit of water, and bring it down into some of this into the foreground. But it's more diluted, so it's going to fade just a little bit. We'll start to build the foreground out of this. So this part takes a lot of concentration, which is why I'm talking sort of mumbling and sort of half concentrated, as I'm trying to really get this established in the first go, which is not easy. Okay. Okay, and bring a little more brown into this lower section. But all these edges nice and soft. Right. And then we form the foreground. Just a little hint of the fence, a distant fence. And let's bring this foreground to the front. Very muted palette. You can tell it's just kind of floating between a bluer gray and now a warmer gray as it comes towards the front. Using the side of the brush, darker. For this. Blend it in there. Am eager to use. This one will be about here. So the spacings are uneven, the angles are varied. This is, to me, it's one of the keys of making a repeated element look good, is to vary those things.